All right, it is September 8th, 2024 at approximately 12:45 in the morning, and I realized I need to get a new tier list out. A lot of you have been asking for a new one. Here we are. 2v2 weapons, 1v1 weapons, and 2v2 legends, 1v1 legends. We're going to start with the 2v2 weapons, going from the bottom to the top. Unless stated otherwise, any legends or weapons within the tier, it is not ordered. I find that to be just too much micromanagement of it. And with how everything is very closely balanced in this game, it's just not worth it. Starting at the bottom with the 2v2 weapons, I put Scythe. Now, Scythe is at the bottom because, yes, you can have situations where the combos are actually going to be pretty good, but I see people who are very good with Scythe and very good 1v1 players with Scythe. When they decide to play in 2v2s, they are sharking on the map, and you could blame it on the player itself, but that's where a huge strength of the weapon is. People aren't utilizing it on stage, in neutral. It's just, let's see how much cheese we can kind of get, maybe get a gimp here and take advantage of the chaos in 2v2s. There's just better weapons for that, and I think some of the moves take so long with Scythe, and unless you are getting that read, it's just not worth it at all. And with what the meta is, that makes it even worse because everything is so combo oriented that it's just you have these complicated team combos, and then also you're relying on mainly strings. So that's not great. And also, unless you're kind of forced off stage, so many people, and this goes with both game modes, are just not willing to go off and play. A lot of people, even on like gauntlets, they're not really looking to make many offstage plays. They're always staying on stage and seeing what they can get, and then they'll go from there and take advantage of it. And let's say you go off stage, well, I mean, there's another person in 2v2s that could easily interrupt what you're doing, so that kind of makes it even worse. You know, the one gimmick you're trying to use on Scythe, it can be interrupted because they have a teammate normally. Up a tier in B, we have Guitar's Greatsword. Greatsword, I think, is just the worst version of Axe, if I'm being honest. Mainly dominant, I would say, in neutral game, right? A lot of moves being thrown out on stage, where if you get a read, that's pretty cool, and it's very hard to punish. But also, the aerials are very solid. Team comboing, it's gotten a little bit better because they've added more stun and ability to do so. But again, it's just a big why. You know, that's going to be something I constantly say, is just why would you end up playing this? Katars are a little bit of a simpler weapon. I think the reads are pretty easy to do. It's just rinse and repeat. A lot of the times you're just doing like, either if you're carrying someone up, you're going to do like, let's say, D-Light recovery, or D-Light Nair, recovery Nair, you know, that's kind of generally the chain you're going to do if you're going to go like upwards. Otherwise, it's D-Light there, D-Light there. Throw in a side light, end light or something. It pairs very well with Spear. And if you are extremely good with the weapon, it's kind of like Scythe, where there are some gimmicks you can do with it, especially off stage. But with that being said, unless you are really, really, really good at the weapon and your teammate is a Spear player, still kind of wasting your time. Moving up. Now, blasters, I think, are not nearly as bad as people make them out to be. However, they are clearly not great by any means, right? If blasters were good, or I should say, like, dominant, broken, you would see them everywhere. They would be super played. But because they're not like that, the only people you have playing them, if I'm being honest, are like Cody Travis, or Clem, maybe. And neither of them, I don't know what placements they've been getting in twos, really, but it hasn't been top 8 as far as I know. In other regions, Europe, you don't see it at all. Maybe someone can prove me wrong. Feel free. South America, I feel like I can say the same thing. I know CEO kind of broke out Barraza, but that was like for a very specific matchup, it seemed. And aside from that, you know, it's just why. Again. Now, in the A+, I have Orb, Sword, and Hammer. Gotta be honest, I think that Orb could probably go in, like, S tier or even SS tier. I actually talked to Experienced the other day. We were playing some twos, and he thinks once double gauntlets are, like, off the map, double orb is going to be a possible meta, and I can see it. It has been in the past where you had people like Boomy Sandstorm, admittedly probably the best team in the world. They were playing like double Thor. Orb is just so quick. It's kind of like Cannon, where you can just constantly be throwing out moves, and it feels like whether you miss, whether you hit, you can be safe in a lot of scenarios, and you can get away with a lot. They operate differently, but they do share that similarity. Orb also gives great setups for combos, and when you play the offstage, you can play the offstage very, very safe with stuff like Dare and Ground Pound. So the ceiling for this weapon is extremely high, and I would say maybe I am underrating a little bit, but perhaps one of you or some of you will agree in the comments or disagree, and there can be a discussion there. Up a tier, I shouldn't have to explain much. I have bow and boots. Bow has some pretty nice setups for team combos. However, here's the issue. And if I would swap 2 weapons on this list, it would probably be Orb and Bow. I think Bow, and we'll talk more about this when we get to the Legends, Bow is carried by the characters that has it. Like, Zariel and Kaya are the 2 that come to mind, but you're never going to see any other Bow legend in 2v2s. That doesn't make it bad overall, but, I mean, it shows how limited Bow characters really are, and how boosted Bow is by a good sig kit. I think Boots have great combo game. I just haven't been too impressed by Boots overall. I think the best I've seen with Boots has either been Radish, or it has been Wesley in 2s, actually, but even then, Wesley hasn't been playing Boots, really. Radish has been on the Red Raptor, and then Jakey in Europe, he's done very well as well, but it's not like he's been winning. I think the best he's gotten is like 3rd with Boots, which is still really, really good, but the combos, some of them do take quite a long time, and at the higher levels, you'll see people interrupting, like D-Light Sares, for example, with like weapon throws all the time. They don't kill particularly early, but you can, once you lock in that combo, you're basically guaranteed a 0 to death if you play it right. So that's pretty nice. And it's not necessarily even carried by, like I said, how Bow is boosted by SIGs. Boots themselves are very good without, like, SIGs. And you just pair it with the character, let's say, Tezca Red Raptor. That's even better. In the SS, we're getting into the staples, basically. Cannon, Spear, Lance. These should not be surprising at all with the characters you see. There's so many good characters on each of them. Of course, Cannon, namely, you only see Onyx. I would say Zol is also a pretty good pick, or Sidra, but Lance and Spear. Spear is probably see the most Spear or Axe, and I guess we'll say right now, I have the best doubled up category, which is Axe and Gauntlets. There's kind of like 2 paths you can go, and it's either going to be a double Axe team, or if you're fighting a different comp, someone that might be, or a team that might be a little more floaty, then you could run the double Axe. It's super easy. You still can do like the end light, side light, nair recovery, and it's just so easy to hit. Like, it's literally baby 2v2 gameplay. Gauntlets, kind of the same thing. You're just like fish brain, just mashing your keyboard, hoping to get a move out as fast as possible. So it works right now. It is extremely annoying to fight, and I just don't know what they can possibly do to like change the meta, really. But one good patch really could shift it, like I mentioned with Orb, maybe Hammer even, and we'll see. I just think fundamentally, Gauntlets and Axe, especially Gauntlets though, they're just at its core so perfect for the game mode that even if double Gauntlets aren't necessarily great, you're still going to be seeing at least one pair like at all times. All right, 2v2 Legend. So, D tier shouldn't be a surprise at all. I just think these guys are trash. They don't really have force on their signatures. The stats are bad. Weapons are bad. Just doesn't make sense. C tier, there's at least something minorly attractive about playing these Legends, right? Like Thea has Lance and Boots. Both are great weapons in 2s. Look at the stats. Terrible. Moving up in B, again, still kind of like a Y. I'm trying to look at this tier and see if there's any Legends that maybe someone would disagree with. I could possibly see like Vector. I think Vector maybe is a little unexplored, or like even, I don't even know, like Mordex, I guess. I just put Mordex that low because I just don't value Scythe characters at all. His stats aren't even bad. It's just he has a pair of gauntlets, which I did say is probably the best weapon in 2 still. So sure, let's say you could move him up a tier, but he's still not fantastic. A tier, legends are starting to get a lot better. You're normally going to see at least someone every once in a while using these legends in twos. They do have some benefits. Some of these characters maybe are just a bit unexplored, so I haven't had a reason to necessarily move them up. But still, A is a good tier. People can play them and do something with them at like a top 8 level. S tier, maybe I should have bumped up like Imugi because the signatures are just so broken on the character. But overall, all these characters have the ability, I think, to be a staple pick for someone. If you're a Katara player, I think Caspian's just like beyond ridiculous to play, by the way. You know, you have gauntlets, you have signatures that are killing so early. Just high base strength is also great. And then a little more unexplored picks. What do we have? We have like Dusk. I actually think Dusk can be pretty good. I've complained in the past that I think his signatures are like very small, right? So they're harder to catch, but they hit so hard that if you did practice Dusk and you found the signatures, it would be insane. In SS, there's 3 legends I want to talk about in particular, starting with Orion. Spear Lance paired together. Okay, awesome. Really good signatures, and the stats are actually pretty flexible for 2v2s. You could lean towards defense stance and get 7 defense. You could play base and be fine. You could play strength and be fine. I think there is just a lot on Orion in particular right now that could work, but you haven't really seen anyone play him yet. I think maybe in like a double spear comp, he could do pretty good. Pair it with like, I don't know, Kaya, Bryn, Rayman, something like that, because Lance and Spear generally pair very well. Also, Sidra. I have Sidra here just because I do think Sidra is very, very good, but everyone is just tunnel visioned on Onyx, so it just kind of is what it is. And then finally, Bryn. I've said Bryn is like the pre-nerf cross of Spear, and I guess that still applies. That makes sense. Her Sigs hit so hard. It's ridiculous. The Spear Axe combo is super good. I've always complained and never really played Bryn because I think it's just such a boring character. But I'm someone who's not really looking to reinvent the wheel right now when I play 2v2s, right? Especially if I'm planning on competing. So I just have been playing a lot of Bryn lately because I do think the legend is crazy good. And also, you look at someone like Blaze. Probably top 2, top 3 at worst, 2v2 player of all time. He's always had Bryn as a pick. He's been a bit more of an Olgrim player lately, but that just shows how good the character has been. Like, yeah, you could say, oh, it's Blaze. He can just play the character and succeed with it. Dude, there's a reason why he's playing this character. It's because they're just always going to be good. They always have been good. They're not really getting nerfed much anymore. There's bigger problems. I think this character is going to stay at a very, very high level. And then in the final tier, which is basically SS, I like to call it the 4 horsemen, which is Kaya, Onyx, Wushang, and Olgrim. You just see these pairings like literally everywhere. They're crazy. If a region doesn't have one of these teams on a comp and is winning, that's unusual generally. I think the last time a tournament has been won was Summers by Double Rayman. And Double Rayman is still SS. And guess what Double Rayman also has? Double Gauntlets, Double Axe, which literally said those are the 2 best comps you can double up on weapon-wise. So it's not even really like... Yeah, you might as well put Rayman up there as well. Is, I guess, what I'm trying to say. It's ridiculous. I would like to see something change soon because there's a lot of like ability to really open up and have some pretty cool comps. 1v1 weapons starting in A tier because I gotta be honest, I think in 1v1s it's a lot closer. That's kind of been the trend as of late. There's just a lot less disparity on what you can and can't play. But I do have Lance and Blasters in the lowest. I think both of them are more 2v2-esque weapons. But they can have their moments. The last time we saw a Blaster's character in top 8 was actually Clem getting 4th, I believe. And from what I saw, it was mainly abusing the signatures of Vivi, which has now been nerfed on Boots and blasters, I think. Maybe not blasters. Don't remember. Doesn't really matter that much. But the Sig kit definitely was like a huge contributor to him. He did play blasters extremely well, but still, I think, again, A being like the lowest level is probably pretty fair, and you can definitely still play them. A plus, Spear just has a lot of like easy reads you can kind of go for. The flowchart is pretty simple to follow, and I think stuff like the off stage and juggle game on stage can be very good. So that definitely makes it better than something like Lance, I would say, and blasters right now. Bow, similar situation where you hit a side light. If they have no dodge, what are you going to do? You're going to go for a D-light, just like on Spear. You hit a side light. What are you going to go for? If they have no dodge, you're going to go for a D-light probably. I think some people might feel like bow or spear is better than where I have it, but I think the perception of it also comes from the fact that people like Impala just play the weapon so incredibly well. So you're going to obviously be a little, I guess, biased depending on how many like bow players you fight, or like if you fight it in tournament and you run into someone like Impala, it's going to be really brutal. Up another tier, I have boots, gauntlets, cannon, and scythe. Longest time, I think I underrated cannon, and now I have it in the S tier. I think it's insanely good. I think scythe isn't going to be higher than these weapons. Scythe is just relying so much on your ability to like read. The offstage is fantastic. The onstage is good, but there isn't many like guaranteed combos that you're going to have. A lot of situational ones. The string game, let's be real, it's easy once you get the hang of it. It's nothing too crazy. Scythe Endlight is pretty good, but it does have a lot of hitboxes like shaved down over the years, just nerf after nerf after nerf, which it definitely deserved. It's still very good. Cannon, I think you can go crazy with cannon ones, and the damage that you have on each individual move is very good, and you can work off each individual move very well. Gauntlets are just gauntlets, kind of similar situation to cannon. A lot of things you can do, a lot of setups, combos, whatever. Boots, same thing. Boots are extremely fast, which is very nice, but they do kill a little late still. However, in ones, I think I would say that's a little less of a problem, and that's what you have signatures for as well, by the way. So, you know, you gotta find ways to work around your weapon's weakness, I guess. If I had to name a weakness of boots, is that on-stage killing is going to take quite some time, but you literally can combo with anything. You can like string into anything, and therefore it feels very good. Moving up into SS, the stuff that I find to be pretty overwhelming. Hammer, insane combo game. The string game and individual moves are also very, very good. I don't think this is a kind of difference at this point. I think if you have a general idea of how to play Hammer, you can definitely go far. Moves like Sidelight, in particular, are crazy good, and depending on how you hit like a Sidelight, you can also get, I believe, a D-Light True, and then also an N-Light True. But Sidelight alone is so strong. I found that out. Like, once I started using Sidelight more, I instantly felt like I became a better Hammer player. Now, as far as how you play it from there, the aerials, they hit very hard. They nerfed Hammer Dare, but even then, Hammer Dare is still killing extremely early, and it's a pretty safe move to go for, so that's not a big deal at all. Next, I have Sword. Sword is just fantastic. I think the hitboxes and startup time of a lot of moves is very good. The D-Light buff was very nice, so you're going to be catching a lot more D-Lights, which is the main combo starter, so that's pretty clean. Every move is very useful. I mean, it's just like, if you don't know what else to play, or if you're new to the game and you're like, okay, what move or what weapon should I learn right now starting out, just keep it simple. Play Sword. It's going to teach you like the basic fundamentals of combos and strings and stuff, and not like overwhelm you. Orb, on the other hand, I think if you were to start out with Orb and Brawlhalla, you probably would be pretty overwhelmed. But I have heard people say that Sword is just a worse version of Orb, or Orb is a better sword. And I can understand that in some ways. The combo game of Orb is ridiculous. The string game of Orb is ridiculous. You can get some like weird combos with Orb, and at like a super high level, if you feel like you've mastered it, you're gonna be able to get like, if you hit like a D light at the very bottommost hitbox, you're gonna be able to get like a GC side light, and then from there, you can combo into different moves. But like, forget that. Off stage is fantastic. I think Dare is such an annoying move to have to deal with. And defensively, even though yes, this weapon was nerfed, I still think like defensively it can be very sound, and you can keep people away pretty easily with like drifting away with like a Sair or walling them off with the Dare on stage. You also can play pretty aggressively offense-wise, and that is extremely nice. Qatar's similar story. I think you can play it aggressively. I think you can play it defensively. Unlike Orb, where I said Orb has like a pretty... I mean, it's Brawlhalla, so dare I say intricate string game. I think Qatar's just... They benefit from being very straightforward in a lot of situations. Like, you are going to thrive if you are able to just figure out which direction off of a D-Light you need to dare, and like the timing of your dare, and then, okay, cool, you got that down. Like, you caught their, I don't know, you caught their dodge to the right after doing a Qatar side-light D-Light. Well, now what are you going to do? You're going to do side-light D-Light, dare, side-light, end-light, or another D-Light, and just try and reset it. A lot of the moves are fast. Doesn't have a great like combo to finish. I'm pretty sure it literally lacks a combo to finish a stock. But even then, like, oh, boohoo, you have to find like an N light or a D light into a recovery, right? And that's not taking into account off stage. You could hit like a Sair or something, or a ground pound. And actually, you can do ground pound into recovery, I believe, true on stage. But yeah, it's a little more niche. Then for weapons, I have Axe and Greatsword in a tier I put as choose your own path. This is basically SS, but essentially there's going to be two types of people. You're either going to end up being a Greatsword player, I think, or you're going to be leaning more towards a simpleton Axe gameplay. Axe is still incredibly good. Yeah, they nerfed the end light. It doesn't hit as high. Kind of did technically lose the last trial because he tried to go for an end light when he should have like done a D light or something. But it still was literally him versus Use game 10, Greatsword versus Axe essentially. And Greatsword ended up winning. I believe actually Use did find like a sword D light recovery or something. I don't know. I'll be honest, I didn't even watch the tournament. But anyways, you just gotta... Like, you just gotta be smart. You can't just be, like, using N-Light for everything now. Now you have to, like, actually use D-Light to catch someone in the air. It doesn't hit grounded either, by the way. They did, like, change that as well. But if someone's right in front of you, you still press Axe N-Light. It kills a little bit later. Not the end of the world. The rest of the kit is extremely good. And then Greatsword. Greatsword is just playing Brawlhalla 2.0. I'll leave it at that. All right, I'm going to give a disclaimer on this 1v1 tier list. I made this, and I don't know if I even really changed much about it. Like, A is the worst tier. Like, deal with it. You can play literally anything at once. I am a firm believer of that. However, I still think A tier, you're probably trolling a little bit. Like Sir Roland is a great example of this character is literally like an alpha Brawlhalla character, and the signatures show that. They're not even bad signatures, and the stats aren't bad, but dude, like, it just reeks of outdated signatures. And maybe there's a few other characters that are like that as well in this tier. Nash is a great example of that. I think Isaiah is genuinely just a bad character to play in ones. Yeah, I mean, the stats are kind of garbage, in my opinion. The gun sigs are pretty good. The cannon sigs are all right. But it's just not a fantastic legend to pick. And then Thea. I think Thea stinks. There was a time, and you still can kind of abuse the signatures. And I know people are probably going to be like, you probably should have Thea higher. But, dude, the high speed, the 9 speed, I think might be a bit overrated. And the low defense hurts her very bad. And the fact that Boots and Lance kind of stink when it comes to, like, confirming a kill. And if you're going to take defense stance on Thea, right? So you have 4 defense, you're going to have 3 strength. So that doesn't help Boots. That doesn't help Lance at all. And her signatures aren't killing super early. So, yeah, you can spam with her. You can get away with a lot, but you're just working extra hard. Like, Boomy playing Thea was because the character was new, first of all, and unpatched. That's the big one. Unpatched character, by the way. So we'll talk about a Mugi later, but yeah, unpatched characters are genuinely just like one of your best picks in the game. It's what happens after that determines their actual placement, like Thea, for example, where it's just, I don't know, dude. Like, sure, spam Lance D-Sig, maybe you'll get some kills, but you're wasting your time even like considering maining this character. A plus, it's same story like A, just slightly better. I think some of these characters are either maybe too gimmicky, like Seven. Seven has great signatures, but it's just kind of a weird legend to play. Like, I think there's room to maybe even overthink. Or Cross, where I don't think Cross is particularly bad. Great stats. And blasters and gauntlets, like, you can make that work. But I think the signatures and ones in particular aren't that fantastic. Or the signatures themselves, like in, let's say, Moonin's case, I don't think the signatures necessarily hit that hard. Moonin's Scythe kit is a great example of this, where Scythe, it's really nice on Scythe to have signatures that are kind of strong, and I just don't think Moonin necessarily has that. So you're kind of relying on the base kit, which isn't great. Ember, I would make the argument that maybe I put Ember too low. Great signatures, honestly, overall, but still 3 defense can give some issues. And honestly, looking at this now, I have Ada and S, so I'd probably bump her up a little bit. Ember, I should say. I would bump Ember into S, probably. S tier, I think all these characters, we're getting into territory where signatures are starting to get a lot better. It's not even about the stats, really. Any character in S tier, there's going to be something about them signature-wise, I think, that are extremely good. S plus only enhances this, except now you have characters that also have very good signatures paired with very good stats. Or, like, the weapon pairing is also insane. A good example of that, I would say, is, like, Loki. I think Loki's stats are actually all right for his weapons, but the weapon pairings himself, being Scythe and Katars, is kind of good, but it's complemented very well by the fact that his signatures, they work well with the weapons. They can, I don't know, they help it out. There's literally signatures built for the kit, like Katar D-Sig, you are literally meant, if you were to catch a dodge, you can work off of it with the active input version and hit like a Dare, D-Light, and do, you know, kind of normal Katar strings. Or, like on Scythe, if you hit a Sidelight, they have no dodge, you can do Sidelight into N-Sig. So, stuff like that in this tier. SS, I would say SS, what characters are a surprise in this tier I want to talk about? I would probably say Vivi being in here might be a surprise. They did nerf Vivi Boots down Sig. Vivi Sigs are carrying the blasters, by the way, and they are just extremely good on boots as well. And she does have good stats too. Like, her signatures are just so good, where if you are good on blasters, I don't think you should really consider any other character in 1v1s. Yeah, just figure out how can I abuse stuff like side sig on VV guns or D-Sig on VV boots, and you're going to go far. Jiro, I have Jiro in SS. His signatures hit so hard. I'm not a fan of, like, the Scythe side sig, for example, but that's one sig out of so many. Low defense, but the sword Scythe pairing is also crazy good. Magyar, Hammer's really, really good. I value Hammer a lot, and I'm not someone that plays Hammer, so take it with a grain of salt. But 9 defense paired with Hammer to maybe confirm kills, and you don't even need to do that. Like, on paper, you have Hammer to confirm kills, and you have Great Sword to get your strings and build damage. Dude, you could play a stock just Hammer. You could play a stock just Greatsword. Both of those weapons do not need their, like, signatures. They don't need any signature help. And that's kind of a good thing for Magyar, because the signatures aren't even that good on Magyar. I guess if you hit, like, a Greatsword N-Sig, you're going to be killing pretty early. Like, the Greatsword kit, I'm not too worried about. It's all right. But the Hammer kit kind of stinks. and Hammer doesn't need the help. So imagine if Magyar actually had good signatures. I think Magyar easily could be one of the best characters in the game. And I do think Magyar is a extremely viable pick right now. Unfortunately, when we jump into another choose your path tier, if you will, I have Jaehyun, Taros, and Amugi. Now, I'll talk on Jaehyun and Taros, just kind of how on the weapons list I had Axe and Greatsword there. It feels like another similar thing where both of these legends are high strength, and Amugi, I guess I can throw there as well. High strength is very valuable right now, I find. They all have signatures that are extremely good. Their weapons don't even need the signature help, but there's ways you can incorporate the signatures in very like smooth ways, sometimes guaranteed like strings, and that's huge. That's insane for the characters. That's like the icing, or what's the freaking saying? The cherry on top, I guess. Corny, but you know, you get the point. Amugi, the reason I put Amugi here, they nerfed the character. I still think this character is very broken. You can live off the signatures. And let's not even, like, say just Amugi. Let's use Amugi as a representation for any new character that comes out. All the new characters, and Eggsuit made a video on this, all the new characters that come out have been unreal on release. They have gotten more and more complicated with the design, and shout out to the people that are making the characters. Like, they are cool designs, and it is neat seeing how they're, I guess, making new signatures and stuff. But therefore, in a lot of cases, the signatures are becoming so much more broken each time, and Amugi is just the latest iteration of that. So if you don't know who to play again, right, or if you're like a tournament player and the new character comes out, they get a patch, it's a very minor nerf, right? Dude, if you're unsure, or you're like, I can't practice much for this tournament or something, play, or even ranked, if you just want to gain some elo, play the new character. You will do better than you think, as long as you have the confidence in the character, because people are going to play you, and they're going to have zero confidence when they're fighting you. Just because they don't know the matchup, right? You're probably one of like 5 people in the entire tournament that would be locking in Amugi. So yeah, you are rewarded for, I guess, like branching out and trying something new in that regard, but still, you're also just being rewarded for playing a clearly broken and overtuned legend that's going to take multiple patches to kind of figure that out. And also, let's say the signatures were balanced, right? You still have Axe, which has been hailed as one of the best weapons right now. Shoot, on my list just now, I still had it at the top. And Greatsword, guess what? Greatsword was the other best weapon I had on my tier list. So, yeah, Amugi, let's say Amugi was balanced from this latest patch. Wasn't, but Axe, Greatsword, still can find a way with that. Basically, Queen Nai-esque Sigs, very slow character, but if you can just manage to stay on stage, maybe even take speed stance, I think you're more than fine. But that is the tier list. I know, again, a lot of you have been waiting for it, so if you could, subscribe, like the video, comment. Yeah, be nice to each other in the comments. And I will make another video sooner than later, so peace out.